Well, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us again here at Business Owner Spotlight Interviews. I'm Marty Rasmussen with Action Coach, and I am super pleased to be able to introduce a new friend of mine by the name of Dan Cady from Cady Business Technologies. And Dan, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Marty.
Dan has been in the technology sector for what, almost 30 years or a little over 30 years.
I'm
And
older than that.
you started when you were 12, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and I reached out to you, Dan, because I'm a bit of a technology geek myself, but I'm a hack. He's an expert, and the solutions that he provides to small business, medium-sized businesses, and business owners in general, all the way up to call centers, is just a fantastic opportunity for all of us to learn from. So, Dan, again, thank you for joining us. Looking forward to hearing your story.
Sure.
Um,
I am from a large family. I have seven siblings,
wow.
and my father was in the telephone business. He worked for Northwestern Bell back in the day,
Okay.
and he was one of the first to leave Northwestern Bell due to some law changes back in the early '70s to start his own business called Telephone Specialists. And ultimately, my entire family was working there. I started as a technician, and brothers, sisters, everybody was there. He sold that company in 1986, and the siblings got together and determined that they were concerned about where the new owner was taking the organization. So we left, and we started our own company called Cady Communications. And Cady Communications did very well, and we grew to just under 10 million in about 9 years. And brother Paul decided that it was time for him to exit, and he was the primary owner with his wife Cindy. He sold that organization in 1986 to a firm by the name of Echelon Telecom. Well, when I started working there, I got into sales and really liked it a lot. So when he sold it in 1996, I stuck around, and as did many of my siblings. And I stayed there through various ups and downs, a lot of changes inside that organization over that period of time, to the point where they got sold. By the time I left, they sold to an organization by the name of Integra Telecom.
Okay.
So I left there in 2010, actually, and went to work with my brother Paul at a small startup, and ultimately purchased the telecommunications side of that business in 2012.
Mm.
And in 2012, we were small and learning, and slowly grew from there. By 2016, a number of people reached out from the old organization wanting to come in and work with me. So I brought in two of those individuals as partners at that point in late 2016, early 2017. And we've been able to grow since then. We're up to, we've just purchased a branch in Wisconsin. We're up to 23 people now and having a lot of fun.
Wow, that's fantastic. So it's in your genes, so to speak.
It really is. It really is. Number of entrepreneurs out of our family for sure.
Wow, that's fantastic. It's quite a legacy for your father and your siblings, right?
It really is. Yeah. They're
So
very blessed.
so do you have any children yourself? And if so, are any of them in the business?
I have four,
Wow.
and I have one that works part-time doing marketing, and we'll see. That may turn into a full-time position next year. We're in kind of a trial basis to see if that's the direction we want to go, but we'll see.
Fantastic. Well, that's good. Well, I hope that continues
Appreciate
for
that.
everybody. Yeah, that's
Appreciate that.
awesome. Well, okay, so that's a little bit of the history about how you got to where you are, and you touched a
Mhm.
little bit just a moment ago on just buying this other location. But tell us where you are right now. Tell us a little bit about some of your specialties. I know you do a lot of
Sure.
work in healthcare, but if the audience could learn something from you in terms of what are the services that Cady Technologies provides, and what
Mhm.
types of industries do you find are kind of in your sweet spot?
Sure. So as far as services we provide, it's really anything voice related in the business. So telephone sitting on your desk, the cell phone on your computer, the application on your cell phone, the contact center. Artificial intelligence is now falling into that arena in a big way. Um, really anything voice related, we really encompass that. And we have a very holistic approach. We'll sit down and we'll sit down with the client, and it's really more of a learning session, a consulting session to really understand how can we either make them more money by improving sales, improve their customer service, which will of course help them make more money, or find ways for them to reduce costs Sometimes it's a combination of all three. But that's really our focus is how can we help them improve their image to their customers while making the life easier for their employees and hopefully cutting some costs at the same time.
Well, I noticed on your website too, you even have a free assessment that you'll do for business owners to kind of do it kind of a discovery approach and kind of walk through where they are and where they want to go. Is that, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, we really like to sit down in front of an organization, no matter where they are, may be in their process, and help them do an assessment as far as understanding where they are and potentially introducing them to new technologies that they may not know exist that could really have a significant impact on how they provide their services to their clients, or perhaps find ways to make their existing situation more efficient from a cost standpoint. And it's a no obligation thing. And most of the time we can find ways to help. But if we might come in there and go through the whole thing and say, you know what, you guys are rock stars. You're doing a great job. Keep up the good work, and we move on to the next one.
Yeah,
It
there you
all
go.
depends upon what they're trying to get done and how they've been doing it.
Okay, sounds good. So you're in a space, it's a competitive space, and it's also a cutting edge space. Well, either you're on the cutting edge or you're not, right? I mean, it's one of
Right,
the two.
right.
And it seems like
Yes.
what I've seen from you is that you guys are really out there on the leading edge of this. Where do you see all this going, especially with the AI part that you mentioned? Where do you see this going in the next 10 years?
Well, it's really an interesting thing. I actually just got back from a big telecom show in Vegas, and certainly the AI part of it is. I'll give you an example where I was really intrigued about the AI part of it. AI part of it. It has to do with an organization that has a contact center, and the problem that they were having is they had a high turnover. And the reason that they had high turnover is customers calling in would ask a lot of questions that the people answering the phone that were new, of course, really didn't know the answers to. And that becomes very frustrating for them as well as for the people asking the question. So it's really a very disappointing experience for both involved. What this AI does is it actually is listening to the call and communicating with the agent by providing them potential answers to the questions that are being asked to them.
Wow.
And those answers are curated from all of the years of, not years, months of listening to all of the calls inside the entire organization and seeing which ones had the best results as far as resolving and moving on to the next part of the conversation. It's
And
pretty fantastic.
is this doing this like real time in the
Real time on the screen of your computer like a chat window.
wow.
It's pretty fantastic. And what they found was their turnover rate dropped dramatically and their satisfaction of their customers increased dramatically.
I bet it
So
did.
for them, it saved them a lot of money in personnel costs and it improved their customer satisfaction dramatically. And it was, it's brilliant how it's done. And of course, the stuff just keeps improving.
So that tells us a little bit about where the industry is going. And of course, that whole AI thing has really got people on both ends of the spectrum, talking about the good and the bad of it. But what about when it comes to your business itself? Where do you see you going? The reason why I ask is a lot of our listeners want to hear, they have their own ideas, their own plans, their own thoughts about what they want to do in the future, but
Sure,
they really benefit from hearing from experienced people like yourself to say, hey, this is where I want to be in 10 years. This is what I see my
sure,
business looking like.
sure. I'll give you some perspective on that. Um, Obviously, we want to grow the business. And our industry is interesting because we have a mix of recurring revenue as well as one-time revenue. So you'll have a project, we'll sell that project, we'll install it, we'll support them, we'll give them support and maintenance and whatnot. But that's more of an upfront hit as opposed to we also offer a subscription service. So people say, we $25 per phone per month and we take care of everything. A lot of people like that. So our objective is to really continue to grow both sides of that business to a point where we did just over 5 million this year. In 10 years, we'd like to certainly be north of 10 million. And
Okay.
the trajectory is good. I see no reason why that won't happen. We work hard to really retain employees, and we do a lot of things like free lunch Fridays. So anybody that's in the office on Fridays, either office, they get free lunch. We bring it in, which is kind of fun. And various events quarterly that we'll do. We'll go out and do fun things like whirly ball or something along those lines. But I continue to really focus on internal training of the personnel to continue to help them grow. To me, that's really gratifying because it really helps grow the business, but it also is fulfilling for them, and really makes them want to, continue to grow with the business. And, hopefully, from my perspective, keep them loyal.
Well, yeah, but this is I think this is one of the things. So when we talk to business owners, there's three pain points that we typically hear. One is time. They don't have enough time for, friends and family and kind of their personal life because they're always in the business as opposed
Sure.
to on the business.
Yep.
The second one is money, right? I mean, where's that next sale coming from? How do I make sure that I'm profitable? How am I driving revenue for the future? But the
Yep.
third one is what a really key piece that you just touched on, that's team. And
Mhm.
it goes beyond, at least what you described, goes beyond the idea of um, having the right person in the right seat of the bus and knowing that they're performing the way they're supposed to. You talked a lot about the softer stuff, which I think
Mhm.
is fascinating.
Sure. Well, I need to address all three of them. From a time standpoint, I'm not pressed for time. Time is not my problem at this point. It certainly has been in the past, but I've reached a point where the organization, the people in the spots, in the different areas of the organization, really do their job. So I get pulled in on perhaps challenging situations, certainly on vision, where are we going, how are we going to get there, that type of thing. But from a day-to-day standpoint, I'm not quote unquote running the business. There's many of the people that work with me that are actually doing that day-to-day, making sure the train stays on the track, if you will. That I get pulled in. So for example, I'm very involved in marketing right now, trying to do what I can to make our marketing more effective. And we spend a lot of time and money on marketing. And I don't know about other business owners, but to me, that's one of the more frustrating parts of the business is I demand an ROI on our marketing. And a lot of marketing people out there aren't as forthcoming with the ROI aspect of it. That is not enough that I'd like them to be.
Yeah,
So that's
yeah.
something that is for me is a continuous challenge.
Yeah, I think the marketing piece is a big one for sure, right? That kind of fits into the money part of those pain points that I mentioned. But we view it marketing as an investment, where a lot of people will view it as an expense, and that is if it's done right, tested, measured, tweaked, tested,
Yep.
measured, tweaked, that whole iterative process of getting feedback from prospects and customers and that kind of stuff can really turn it into an investment. So we know that if we increase our marketing spend, then the revenue generation will follow it. But yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because, and I've done that. I mean, we've certainly made that commitment to marketing and continue to do so. Um, However, something that we rolled out HubSpot this last year, and HubSpot does a very nice job tracking where all these things coming from, and that's where I'm holding the marketing group accountable to say, hey, we've been doing this for a couple of years now. We do the blogs, we do blogs weekly, we do a lot of different things from a marketing standpoint.
Mhm.
And so something we're very diligent on, something I'm a real stickler about is if an opportunity comes in, where did it come from? And how qualified is that opportunity? Is this somebody that we can actually help? Or at least somebody we can speak to that thinks they might need some help. A marketing qualified lead. And that's really a continuous process for us to make sure that, the program, we do various programs quarterly. And how is this outreach program working? We're doing a very large medical outreach program right now. And that has to do with safety and whatnot. And it's something I keep a close eye on every one of those to say, how is this performing? And does it work? Does it not work? If it doesn't work, cut the cord. If it works, put more money into it. That type of thing. So it's an interesting experience. I've learned a lot about marketing in the last 3 years, I'll tell you.
Yeah, I bet. But you're using tools, good quality tools. HubSpot's a great tool for that, right? I mean, in
It
terms of
absolutely is.
yeah, watching things go through the workflow and being able to measure and track
Yep.
and use it. It's a great tool. We use it ourselves. So,
Hmm.
well, tell me. I know we have some limited time here, but one of the things I think people would be interested in is you've talked about some of the services that you provide, but is there particular target markets that you prefer to stay in?
There
Or
is. Yeah.
okay,
Certainly because of the business that we're in, we're able to really support all people that, everybody that has a telephone, we can probably help. but we certainly have a strong concentration in medical as well as financial. Those are two areas that this year we're taking a really hard focus on and really working hard, pushing towards. And there's some specific product reasons for that, that we have some products that have a specific advantage in those two areas that most of our competitors do not, specifically in the medical and financial areas. So certainly that's an area that has a lot of appeal, because we're going to really make a big difference. But certainly we work a lot with manufacturing. We work a lot with distribution, as well as it's amazing, retail and hospitality also. So we're really in a lot of them.
Okay. But you've got some core areas, but it sounds like you can expand beyond that depending on what that assessment turns out like, right? So,
That's correct. That's
okay.
correct.
So we can encourage people to reach out to you, and then you and them can figure out whether it's a good fit. What about
Right.
size of the company? Do you go by revenue size or employee size
Employee
or
size. Typically, we focus on the 20 to 300 user range. Now, to be clear, we certainly have people on both sides. We have thousand plus customers, users out there. We have some smaller ones also. So we go outside of those boundaries, but that's really our meat and potatoes is in the 20 to 300.
perfect? Yeah, okay, I think that's really helpful. But again, we'll encourage people to reach out to you from there. So, all right, so here's my kind of the big question that I found that a lot of our listeners have kind of sit on the edge of their seat for, and that is, out of all of this time that you described of your journey, is there anything in particular that you could share that about what to do or what not to do that may help other business owners kind of get through the learning curve faster and with less pain?
Two things. One is perseverance. Um, there were times where in my career where it's been really tough. And I've learned that you keep going until you can't go anymore because somebody stops you, is pretty much the only reason. It's just got to keep going no matter what. Um, there were times where it was tough, but we got through it. So that, but then secondly is really the ability to be flexible. I saw this quote somewhere where it's not the strongest that wins, it's not the fastest that wins, it's the most adaptable that wins.
Hmm.
And adaptability really is the key. And to really be open-minded to changes in the market space and changes in your manufacturers or providers is really a big deal. And, our industry has changed a lot, over the last few years because there's a lot more national providers in there than there used to be, far fewer local providers.
Hmm.
And so, of course, we're leaning into that local part of it, and that's just an adaptability thing. A lot of the local people just couldn't figure out how to make that switch to what the changes in the technology and disappeared. But we went the other direction. We really enjoyed it. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of I like that. I mean, perseverance is key, right? Being able to just stay, have that conviction in what we do and staying with it, and regardless of the difficulties. So that's huge. The day-to-day execution of that can be a challenge sometimes, but
Wow. Wow.
yeah. But I think that local piece of it, there's a lot of people, whether it's truly local, like geographically local, or at least brings that local community relationship feel to it, I think is really what people are kind of starved for now with all the big companies kind of going getting a little too big, maybe is the way to describe it. And
Right.
I don't mean criticizing, but I think that local approach is really helpful in what people are looking for today, at least in my experience. So,
Fair enough.
well,
Yeah.
awesome.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, question for you. Is there a way that people can reach out to you, or what's the best way for people to reach out if they want to learn more about Cady Business Technologies as a business, as getting to know you as from a networking standpoint?
Sure.
What's the best way for people to reach you?
Well, certainly our website's always a good location to hit to, and that's CADYBT. So Cady, B for business, T for technology.com is a good spot. I'm always happy to chat with anybody. My direct email is dan.cady@cadbt.com.
Okay.
Pretty easy to find. We're everywhere. We try to be at least. So you can
Yeah,
Google us. You can Google KDBT or Cady. Just Google Cady. You'll probably find us, or Cady Business Tech. You'll find us also.
yeah, and I want to tell people that are watching, first of all, you guys have a great website. I mean, tons of
Thank you.
information on it. It looks good, it flows good. I get really hypercritical on websites, and and yours does a really good job of it. And your LinkedIn page, both your personal profile page, but also the company page, is really good too. So
Oh, thank you. I
um,
appreciate that.
yeah, for sure. Well, maybe I'll just wrap with: is there anything else that you'd like to share with people as we kind of wrap up here?
You know what? I just want to say that I've been in this town for since I was born, and it's a great place to work, and I really enjoy working with the people in the community. It's just a lot of fun. So happy to chat with anybody anytime, and we'll go and have some coffee if you like. But I really enjoyed it a lot.
Sounds great. Well, Dan, Katie, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. All of our listeners as well, thank you for joining us. Great opportunity here for you to expand your network and get to know a great business, local business owner, and great services as well. So just want to encourage you to follow up with Dan in one of the ways that he explained earlier. And I look forward to seeing you all at our next interview. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Marty. Appreciate the time.